Welcome, Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights. Thanks, sponsors, Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication, ComC.com, Burbank Sports Cards, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Heritage Auctions, Huggins & Scott Auctions, Topps, Upper Deck, and Panini. Recap episode, which I really enjoyed this. It gives me a chance to think back and enjoy producing them and putting them out and getting some feedback on, I pretty much get feedback on every episode. Actually, if I didn't get any feedback about an episode, that would not be a good sign, but I do get feedback on all of them and get good questions, keep them coming. So I did some listener question episodes in this volley as well. Anyway, here it is. I don't want to go in too much depth because in many cases you either already listened to it or you chose not to. I'm not trying to twist anybody's arms. I'm now 3 times a week. When I was every day, that was different, but now it's 3 times a week. Hopefully I'm putting things out that are a span of old and new and vintage and modern and card related, and hopefully not too much philosophy, although I hope to have insights with every episode that are about sports cards. So 1326 was the first one. We're going to go up to 1349. That was the outtakes from Hobby Hotline right after the new year. So this is back in early January, going over 2024. Again, it's an hour-long show. I strongly recommend that you just do that live and call and interact, and you can ask your questions right there. I'm on once a month, and it's different people I'm on with, and it's always a good time. So that's been a positive. And 2024 was a good year. 2025, I think, actually it started out really good for me. So I'll just say that. 1327 through 29, all were the ramblings with John Keating. I had accumulated a whole bunch of stuff, and I did some of the stuff without him, but then it's more fun to do it with him. It just takes longer because he is definitely not a yes man. He has his own take on things, and I really enjoy that. When I had the company, I want to have a good discussion, and I want back and forth. Sometimes you iterate toward a better solution than your first thought. 1330 was the first of a couple episodes I had with Mike Fruitman. In late December, I started thinking about who I hadn't talked to for a while, and I'd been meaning to get Mike Fruitman on the calendar. He's always fun to discuss. And it turned out we did 2 ramblings episodes because he just rambled. I can't contain him. And I just enjoyed the dialogue and let it be a little more free form. So we talked about food and barbecue. And if you're not interested in those things, then you can still listen to them. But again, trying to bring in sports card insights, and I did, but you may find out some things about barbecue if you tune into those. 1331 was the episode I entitled Trumpisms. That was, I think, right at the time of the inauguration. And I thought this is really affecting our nation and the world and the economy and collectors, perhaps more directly than we even realize with tariffs and all these things. And so I didn't get deep into it other than he is now the president. And that was news. And I wanted to talk about how that affected. I wanted to try to do it in a nonpartisan way. But that was after the election. And we're seeing that some of those Trumpisms are coming to pass because he's got guns blazing coming out of the gate. 1332 was outtakes from my interview, Dustin Cooley. I've had him on mine. He's had me on his Sports Card Dad. It's fun. He's well prepared. He loves a hobby. And I think he does an excellent job of what he does. I can't do what he does, but I love to piggyback in on his channel on YouTube. And so thanks, Dustin. And hopefully you got some good content out of it. Again, that was a much longer interview, and I just pull out things that I think I've never talked about on my channel without just redoing it. I just edit it down tightly. 1333 was the last part with Mike Fruitman. 1334 was the idea I had, which I was talking myself through. Is this a hobby or is it a business? Certainly it was a business for me for a long time. Is it a hobby now? Actually, and I got a lot of feedback from people, it's both for a lot of people. So there's some indicators. If it's a pure hobby, that's one thing. If it's a pure business, that's one thing. For most people, I think they fall in the middle. And I certainly do now. I want the enjoyment of the hobby, but I don't really want to lose money. I don't mind spending money on a hobby. As I said, I don't expect to make money when I go play golf. It costs money to golf, but I enjoy it. It costs money to go to movies, but I enjoy it. 1335 was the first of several of these. I got way behind on listener questions. And so I grabbed, and I thought, I'm going to stretch myself, see if I can get 11 in less than 15 minutes. So that's a minute per with a little bit more and some less, some more. And I'm enjoying that. So keep them coming. I've got another batch scheduled for probably next week because they just keep coming. I don't want to rehash. I want to amplify or dig deeper on things. 1336 was the instant episode I did because of Luka being traded over the weekend. And that was just like a punch in the gut. That was just really bad. I'm very disappointed, but I have no control over it. And it just points out that when we're fans, we're not the team owners, we're not the players. And so Luka, watching him play with the purple and gold, I used to like the Lakers when my parents lived in LA and they had tickets occasionally. And I went and that was great, but something wrong about Luka not being in Dallas anymore. 1336, because this got bumped. I did 4 episodes that week. It was the Football Card Hall of Fame ballot with those guys. They just do a great job. They've evolved it a little bit, I think, in a good way. I had some suggestions for further evolution because the same thing with the Football Card Hall of Fame can happen with the Football Hall of Fame, is that when you get more and more people in there, then there's a little bit of a diminishing returns when all the best players or cards get in there. And so they've made some adjustment in the right direction, and I think that's good. I would have done it with them, but there's no way I could fit my opinions in the back and forth. So I just thought I'm going to try to do it tightly in less than 15 minutes of going through the ballot of my insights. Again, I promise I am not typical. If I vote for something, that doesn't mean it'll get, in many cases, it can mean the opposite because I'm too knowledgeable in some cases. So when it's a Hall of Fame, it needs to be for the people. And so I really affirm that strategy of opening up to the people to ballot. There's no test that you have to know enough to. You just have to, check off which cards you like the best. 1337 was Upper Deck. I got some products from Upper Deck. 1338, same thing. I got some stuff from Panini. They do not coordinate. I occasionally get stuff from the card companies, and I don't know. I don't demand it. I don't even request it. I just say I appreciate it. So they'll send me some stuff, and they probably want me to say some nice things about it. It's not hard because, like I say, I love all cards. But each time when I'm doing these reviews, I really want to give more than just opening a box and showing. I've done some of them on YouTube, and that's not as much fun, just to show the card. And I'd rather talk about what other things come to mind as I open up the product. And so I hope the companies appreciate that. So it's a little bit different than your typical box review, but appreciated nonetheless. 1339 was trade nights. Rich had some questions about that, and really just been at the beginning of some trade nights. I've never stayed to the end, and I wonder if it's like being at the card show, that the beginning is very different from the end, but I'm not going to stick around to the wee hours anymore. I've converted to being more of a morning person now, and so trade nights are maybe for the younger crowd. I may stay a little bit longer the next time. And 1340 was, again, the ever-popular Rich Klein, sales tax implications. It's by state. Sales tax is state, and there have been occasionally people talking about a national sales tax. And I hope not. Taxation, if the taxes are used appropriately, then I don't have a big problem with taxes. I have a problem with waste. But there's real estate taxes, there's sales tax, there's some corporate taxes, there's income taxes. And when you add it all up, it's a lot of taxes. And some states and some localities have more sales and less property, more income, more franchise taxes, things like that. I've paid a lot of taxes in my life. There's some other video during that week. I also caught up on my video card wall, picking up with Phil Rizzuto, and did a bunch of 4 to 5 minute card wall videos. They're poor production quality, but at least you can get an idea of some of my thought process of some of the cards that I have, some of which are really scarce, and some of them are really popular, and some of them are pretty mundane, and you're thinking, what am I thinking? I'm trying to explain what I'm thinking. It's multi-sport. 1341 was a lot of fun. That was my Valentine's Day episode. It's a problem when you're happily married. Not a problem, but it's an opportunity or it's a challenge when your podcast is coming out and you know your wife is going to listen, and it's on the actual Valentine's Day. So you have to mention her. I want to, but still, it's in a situation where I hope she wasn't upset that I applied till death do us part to my relationship with her and also my relationship with the hobby. But I had fun with that. I did not clear it with her before. and she was not disapproving. I think if I'm just touting her virtues once a year, maybe I can get away with that with y'all. 42, the 11 listener questions, the second group. I had a whole bunch of some more Cardwell videos. And then 1343 was the outtakes on AI. We got into a longer discussion on AI, among other things, on that hobby hotline in February. And my point was there were some complaints about some aspects of AI, but it's here to stay. And it's going to be in almost everything we do. And some of it's going to be good and some of it's going to be bad. But what I've told people, it's going to cause people to have their own understanding of things so that if they get a result out of AI that is spurious, that is erratic or incorrect, that they at least know, hey, that can't be right. I must have asked the question the wrong way, or it's tapping into a data set that's biased. There's lots of ways AI can go wrong, but it's here to stay and it's going to be in the hobby. Then 1344 was another one of Rich's ideas. So what do you do? He's just noticed people frequent stores a lot more than I do. And when people are opening up a nice box, what do you do after you pull out the best card? What do you do with the rest of the cards? And maybe they go in the dollar box. Maybe they stay on the counter. But that's not new information. And it's not a new approach. That's happened for decades. It's reminiscent of back in the day or even now. If you're going to sell an 82 top set, if you sell it without the Ripken, or an 89 upper deck set, you sell it without the Griffey, then the rest of the cards are going to be sold way cheaper, and it might even be a really good deal. But it's not what people are interested in because they want the big stars. 1345 was the Hobby Significance Tournaments that I just invented that with Rich Klein. This was 28 Baseball Hall of Fame finalists, not all baseball players, just those that were on the ballot. And I grouped them by how they fell when the voting was tallied up and to see who had the most hobby significance or impact or future increases, perhaps, based on Rich and my insight. And so then we did the same thing in a different way. We did a tournament of the 8 companies that we listed quickly. I just took them in alphabetical order of companies that produce football cards back when there were 11 or 13 football licenses. And folks, that's one of the reasons why we have only one for each of the sports now, because it got to be way too many, and that was not good. 1346, another listener questions. 1347, I see Mike Moynihan at the card shows, and I've been over to his beast. He's been over and seen my card wall and to dig into the vintage world with him. And we did that. And we got to a segment there that caused me to think about what divesting of some of my personal collection in lieu of being all in with my company was more important than I realized. And thanks, Mike. He's a financial professional, so he's multi-talented and always a good time. 1348, just recently, the Panini Prism box and Spectre that I got. I really enjoyed the Spectre more so than the Prism. Spectre is a little more exclusive. Every card was a little more special, 16 cards in the box, so you get through it pretty quick. And then when I was doing that, I didn't want to just talk. I want to say, hey, these are nice products, but it pointed out what's going on in the basketball sport as well as football, the licensing thing, all of that. I wanted to weave that in, that there's no sure things. That was one of my themes. And the diversification, not necessarily diversification by product, but diversification by player, and perhaps even diversification by sport would be smart. I've done that. Doesn't mean you have to do that, but it's worth considering. And then finally, 1349 is the first of a couple more that are coming next week. Dueling Questions with John Mangini, who's was a lot of fun. I'd been waiting to do that, and I finally said, I need to do this. I have 1,300 episodes, and I'm trying to make a list of some other people that I'm thinking 1,300 episodes, and I haven't had a chance to have this person on. I've got to reach out. So that was fun. I hope you'll enjoy that. And that was it. So this is 1350, the recap episode. Keep your questions coming, drjamesbeckett@gmail.com. And thanks for the greatest hobby in the world.